Let me tell you a story that might sound familiar. You open your trading app, charts flickering, candlesticks dancing, red and green flashing like a heartbeat. You take a deep breath, click buy, and for a brief moment, you feel powerful, like you're part of something bigger. But then, as quickly as that feeling comes, it disappears. The price turns against you, the stop loss hits, another small loss, another lesson. Or so you think. Most retail traders believe they're just one strategy away from success, one indicator, one mentor, one lucky streak. I used to believe that too. I thought discipline, patience, and a few technical setups would be enough to beat the market. But the market doesn't play fair, and it doesn't care about your hopes or your dreams. It's a battlefield run by players who understand the psychology behind every single click you make. I remember once losing half my account in a single afternoon. I stared at the screen, frozen, not because of the money, but because I couldn't understand why. The setup looked perfect, the analysis was sound, yet the market reversed at the exact price I entered, as if someone was watching me. That day, I realized something crucial. Maybe the market wasn't random at all. Maybe I was being hunted. Over the years, I learned that the reason retail traders always lose isn't because they lack intelligence or courage. It's because they're playing the wrong game, with the wrong rules. The truth is, retail traders aren't trading the market. They're trading against themselves and against an invisible system that profits from their mistakes. Today, I'll take you inside that system, how it manipulates emotions, how smart money shapes every move, and why, until you change your perspective, you'll always be one step behind. When I first entered the world of trading, I was 22. Fresh out of college and full of confidence. I had read a few books on technical analysis, watched dozens of YouTube videos, and believed I could outsmart the market in a few months. I didn't realize that what I was truly stepping into wasn't a financial playground, it was psychological warfare. In those early days, my setup was simple. Trend lines, moving averages, RSI. Every time I spotted a perfect pattern, I felt a rush of excitement. I'd take the trade, envisioning profits before the candle even closed. Sometimes it worked, most times it didn't. But even when I won, I wasn't learning, I was gambling without knowing it. I joined online trading groups thinking I'd find camaraderie and mentorship. Instead, I found chaos. Thousands of traders shouting predictions, posting screenshots of their wins, rarely their losses. Everyone was chasing the next holy grail strategy. I was no different. I jumped from strategy to strategy, scalping one week, swing trading the next, always believing the problem was my system, never my mindset. There was one trade I'll never forget. It was during the European session. GBP USD was moving fast, and I spotted what I thought was a breakout. I entered full margin, convinced this was the one. Within minutes, the price reversed violently, wiping out weeks of profits. I sat there in silence, watching the candles print lower and lower until my account balance blinked red. That was the first time I realized how powerless I truly was. But even then, I didn't stop. I couldn't. The market had me, hooked, not by the money, but by the possibility. Every loss whispered, next time will be different. Every small win reignited hope. I didn't know it yet, but I was trapped in the exact cycle that destroys most retail traders. The emotional roller coaster of greed, fear, and denial. It took me years to understand that the market wasn't punishing me. It was teaching me. But I was too proud, too impatient to listen. I thought success in trading was about mastering the charts. What I didn't realize was that the real chart I needed to study was myself.
That was the beginning. The naive belief that skill alone could beat a system designed to exploit emotion. And it was only the first lesson in a very long, painful education. The real turning point came 2 years into my trading journey. By then, I had already blown 3 accounts. Each time, I told myself the same lie. I just need a better strategy. But the truth was, I didn't need a new strategy. I needed discipline, patience, and emotional control, things I didn't even know I was missing. The market has a cruel way of humbling people who think they're smarter than everyone else. I remember one trade on gold, XAU-USD, that changed everything. The setup looked perfect. It was Friday, right before non-farm payroll data, and I thought I could predict the move. I ignored my own rules about avoiding news volatility. I doubled my position size. When the numbers came out, the chart spiked violently, but not in the direction I expected. In less than 30 seconds, I lost nearly half of my account. I froze. My palms were sweating, my heartbeat racing. My brain screamed at me to close the trade, but my ego whispered, "Wait, it'll come back." It didn't. By the time I finally hit the close button, the damage was done. I had lost months of effort in one impulsive moment. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in front of my computer, staring at my empty account. The room felt heavy, silent except for the faint hum of the cooling fan. I realized that trading had stopped being exciting. It had become torture. Every win felt temporary. Every loss felt permanent. I started to question everything. Was I even cut out for this? Maybe the markets were only for the big players, the hedge funds, the institutions with algorithms and capital I could never compete with. I was just a retail trader, a small fish swimming in a tank full of sharks. But the pain wasn't just financial. It was emotional. I had tied my identity to trading. When I lost money, I felt like I was losing myself. Friends started to ask how trading was going, and I'd lie. "Doing great, man. Just refining my strategy." Inside, I was collapsing. One morning, I finally broke. I looked at the chart, saw a setup, and realized I didn't even want to trade anymore. The joy was gone. I closed my laptop, walked outside, and just started walking aimlessly. For the first time, I admitted to myself, I have no idea what I'm doing. That moment, that brutal honesty, was the beginning of change. Because pain has a way of forcing you to see clearly. I realized that every mistake I made was rooted in emotion. Impatience, greed, fear of missing out, revenge trading. The market didn't care about me. It simply exposed who I truly was. So I made a promise to myself that day. I would stop chasing money and start chasing mastery. If I was going to lose, I'd lose consciously, with discipline. If I was going to win, I'd earn it through patience, not luck. It sounds simple now, but back then, it was a revolution in my thinking. I stopped trading for a few months. I went back to the basics, journaling, studying my trades, reading about psychology instead of just patterns. That period of silence became the foundation for everything I would later build. Pain was my teacher. Mistakes were the lessons. I finally stopped trying to fight the market and started learning from it.
It was during that quiet period away from trading that something inside me finally shifted. I wasn't looking at charts. I wasn't chasing setups. I was just trying to understand why I had failed so consistently. One night, I came across a quote from Jesse Livermore, one of the most legendary traders in history. He said, "The game of speculation is the most uniformly fascinating game in the world. But it is not a game for the stupid, the mentally lazy, or the get-rich-quick adventurer. They will die poor." That line hit me like a lightning bolt. I realized I had been exactly that, the get-rich-quick adventurer. I wasn't trading the markets, I was gambling in them. Every decision I made came from a place of emotion, not logic. So I started studying not just trading, but how traders think. I dove deep into trading psychology, behavioral finance, and institutional trading behavior. And that's when I stumbled upon the concept that changed everything: smart money concepts. For the first time, I understood that the market wasn't random. It was structured, but not in a way that retail traders could easily see. The moves that looked chaotic to me were often engineered: stop hunts, liquidity grabs, fake breakouts. I realized that what I had always seen as market manipulation wasn't unfair. It was simply how the game was designed. Institutions weren't trading like me. They weren't chasing green candles or panicking at red ones. They were creating those moves to trap traders like me, to accumulate positions, to trigger liquidity where they could enter or exit. That realization was both humbling and liberating. Humbling because I saw how naive I had been. Liberating because for the first time I could see the truth behind the noise. I remember opening a chart one day, not to trade, but just to observe. I marked out the previous highs and lows. I watched how price gravitated toward those levels, how it swept liquidity before moving in the opposite direction. Suddenly, it all made sense. It wasn't magic, it was logic. A brutal, efficient logic that rewarded patience and punished emotion. I also realized that most retail traders lose not because they're not smart enough, but because they're looking at the wrong things. They obsess over indicators, signals, and perfect entries, but they ignore the story the market is telling. The story of where liquidity lies, where big players are positioning themselves, and how sentiment shifts across timeframes. Once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. My entire relationship with trading changed. I stopped reacting and started anticipating. I began thinking like the other side, the side that moves the market, not the side that gets moved by it. And most importantly, I understood that trading is not about predicting, it's about adapting. The market doesn't reward those who try to control it. It rewards those who can listen to it. That was my moment of awakening. It wasn't a sudden success story. It was a deep internal shift from fighting the market to aligning with it. I realized that every candle on the chart is a reflection of human behavior: fear, greed, hope, despair. Once you start reading those emotions instead of chasing setups, you start trading reality, not illusion. That night, I opened my old trading journal and wrote one sentence that I still live by today: "The market is not my enemy. My ignorance is." From that point on, everything I did, every analysis, every trade, every mindset was built around that truth.
When I began studying smart money concepts in depth, the market stopped being a mystery and started revealing its structure. It wasn't about magic indicators or secret formulas, it was about how liquidity flows. The first thing I realized was that the market is a mechanism built to hunt liquidity, not to reward prediction, but to exploit emotion. Every candle, every wick, every breakout or false move is part of that hunt. When price sweeps a high or low, it's not a random event, it's the market's way of clearing the board, collecting stop losses to fuel the next move. This is why retail traders always feel like the market is against them. It's not personal, it's systemic. Retail traders are the liquidity. Their stops, their emotional entries, their predictable reactions. That's what fuels the engine of the market. Once I accepted that, I stopped trying to beat the market and started joining the logic behind it. Let me explain something that most beginners never grasp. The market doesn't move because of you. It moves because of imbalance. An imbalance between buy and sell orders, between trapped traders and patient players, between those who react and those who anticipate. Institutions don't just buy or sell because they feel like it. They move price to where liquidity lies. When they want to buy big, they first need people willing to sell. So what do? They push price down, triggering panic, convincing retailers that price is breaking lower. Retail sells, and that's when the institutions buy from them at a discount. Then, when they're ready to sell, they reverse the process, push price up, attract buyers chasing green candles, and offload their positions into that retail enthusiasm. It's the oldest trick in the game, yet it still works because human emotion never changes. Once you see this, the market becomes predictable, not in direction, but in behavior. You start seeing footprints, a liquidity sweep before a reversal, a fake breakout that collects stops, an order block forming where institutions previously entered, a mitigation move to rebalance inefficiency. That's when I understood the market's rhythm. It moves like a predator, stalking, faking, trapping, and then striking with precision. But here's the deeper truth. Most traders don't fail because of lack of knowledge. They fail because of impatience. They can't wait for confirmation. They don't have the discipline to let the liquidity play out. They enter too early, get stopped out right before the move, and then watch price run exactly where they predicted without them on board. It's not bad analysis, it's bad timing, born from emotional pressure. After years of losses, I trained myself to think in terms of phases, not setups. Accumulation, where the big players quietly load up. Manipulation, where they trap liquidity. Distribution, where they take profit as retail traders pile in. Every cycle repeats, not daily, not hourly, but fractally. On every time frame, the same story unfolds. Once you align yourself with that rhythm, your trades stop being guesses, they become responses to what the market is showing you. And here is the irony. When you start thinking like smart money, you stop feeling the urge to trade every day. You trade less, but earn more. You stop reacting to news, stop chasing pumps, stop doubting your plan, because now you understand the fundamental truth. The market is not random. It's a reflection of organized intent, and your job is to read it, not fight it. When I teach newer traders this, they often look at me skeptically. They want a strategy, not philosophy. But trading is 70% psychology, 20% risk, and 10% strategy. The edge is not in knowing, it's in waiting. I used to think success came from analyzing more charts, backtesting more systems. But it came when I started analyzing my own behavior. Once you see your own patterns of fear and greed, you realize you've been trading against yourself all along. Understanding smart money concepts didn't make me omniscient. It made me patient. It gave me context. It turned chaos into structure and uncertainty into opportunity. That's when I stopped being a retail trader and started thinking like a professional.
The turning point didn't come from a winning trade. It came from losing one more time. But this time, I understood why I lost. I remember that day vividly. It was mid-2020, the market was wild, and Bitcoin was breaking through resistance levels like paper. Everyone on social media was screaming bull run, and I let that noise get to me. I jumped in on a long position after a big green candle, confident, almost smug. Within 2 hours, price reversed, swept the lows, hit my stop loss, and then exploded upward without me. Before, I would have cursed the market manipulators. But that time, I sat back, rewound the chart, and traced every move. I realized something. I didn't lose because I was wrong. I lost because I was early. That single insight changed everything. For the first time, I saw the pattern of manipulation clearly. Price didn't move randomly. It moved intentionally. First, collecting liquidity below the previous low, then moving upward with force. It was textbook smart money behavior. That's when I promised myself no more emotional entries, no more chasing candles. I'll trade the setup, not the feeling. I started backtesting differently. I wasn't looking for where price will go anymore. I was studying why price went there. I traced each move to its liquidity origin. I noticed that every major reversal happened after stop hunts, not before. That realization became my edge. Then came the mental shift. I stopped trying to predict and started reacting to confirmation. Instead of trying to catch every move, I began waiting for the smart money footprint: liquidity sweep, break of structure, retracement to premium or discount, entry. It sounds technical, but what it really means is this: I learned to wait for the market to reveal its intent. Suddenly, everything slowed down. I wasn't panicking at every red candle or euphoric at every green one. I started journaling not just my trades, but my emotions. Every entry had a reason. Every loss had a lesson. That's when trading became less about excitement and more about clarity. I remember the first week I applied this mindset fully. I only took 3 trades, small, precise, and boring to watch, but they all followed the same logic, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel anxious. I felt in control. That's when I realized something deeper. Trading success isn't measured by profit, it's measured by peace of mind. When your decisions come from logic, not fear, you stop fighting the market. You flow with it. Another thing I learned, and this is what separates amateurs from professionals, is selective participation. Professionals don't chase moves. They wait for the market to come to their level. If the setup doesn't align, they do nothing, because no trade is better than a bad trade. And when they do trade, they manage risk ruthlessly. Every position has a defined invalidation point. Every stop loss has a purpose. That discipline, the ability to do nothing, became my greatest weapon. I stopped forcing trades just to feel active. I learned that sitting out of the market is also a position of power. By the time 2021 came around, I wasn't reacting to the market anymore. I was observing it with calm detachment. My charts were cleaner, my emotions quieter, and my results finally consistent. That was the moment I felt reborn as a trader. The chaos that once ruled my decisions was gone. What replaced it was structure. Not rigid rules, but principles. Patience over prediction. Process over profit. Discipline over dopamine. It's ironic, the less I traded, the more I earned. Because now, every move I made was aligned with intention, not impulse. That's the clarity every trader chases. The moment you stop gambling and start understanding.
When I look back on my journey, the biggest shift wasn't a new indicator or strategy. It was a set of principles, rules that I began to live by both inside and outside the charts. These rules are simple, but they changed everything. Rule 1. Never trade noise. The market moves 24/7, but not every move deserves your attention. I used to stare at the charts for hours, convinced that if I watched long enough, I could see the next move coming. But all I saw was chaos. Then, one of my mentors said something that stuck with me. The market only speaks clearly twice a day. The rest is noise. He was right. When I filtered out the noise, when I stopped trading mid-session chop and focused only on high-probability setups around key liquidity zones, my win rate doubled. Now, I trade less but earn more, because every entry is intentional. Rule 2. protect capital first, grow second. Every retail trader says they want freedom, but few act like it. Freedom doesn't come from profits, it comes from preservation. You can't play the game tomorrow if you lose your chips today. I used to think risk management was boring until I realized it's the reason professionals stay in the game for decades. I started risking only 1% per trade. Suddenly, every decision mattered more. Losses became tolerable, not devastating. This simple shift made me think long-term. I stopped measuring success by this week's P&L and started measuring it by how disciplined I stayed. Rule 3. Journal everything. You can't improve what you don't measure. My trading journal used to be just screenshots of entries and exits. Now it's a mirror of my psychology, notes on why I entered, what I felt, and how I reacted to outcomes. Over time, patterns emerged. I saw that I lost most when I was tired, distracted, or chasing FOMO. The journal became my accountability partner. When you document your thoughts, you realize the market isn't your opponent, your own impulses are. Rule 4. Trade what you see, not what you think. Every trader has a bias, bullish or bearish. The problem is, bias blinds you. I used to force trades just to confirm what I wanted to believe. That's how I kept losing. Now, I follow one principle. Let the market prove itself. If price breaks structure and confirms a shift in momentum, I act. Until then, I wait. No opinions, no predictions, just reactions to facts. Rule 5. Detach from the outcome. This was the hardest one. I used to feel euphoric after a win and crushed after a loss. My emotions swung with every trade, and that volatility was worse than the markets. One day, a veteran trader told me, "You can't control the market. You can only control how you enter, manage, and exit." That changed everything. Now I celebrate good execution, not good results. If I followed my plan, it's a win, even if the trade lost money. This mindset freed me. It made trading peaceful again. Rule 6. Never stop learning. Markets evolve. What worked 5 years ago won't necessarily work now. The moment you think you've figured it out, you're done. I read price like a language, one that keeps changing dialects. So I keep learning, testing, adapting. And the more I learn, the simpler my charts become. Because in the end, trading mastery isn't about doing more, it's about doing less, but with precision. These are the rules I live by. Not theories, but scars turned into wisdom. I learned them the hard way, through losses, self-doubt, and perseverance. But once you internalize these principles, something beautiful happens. You stop fighting the market, you start dancing with it. After 15 years in the markets, here's what I've come to understand. Trading isn't about predicting the future. It's about surviving the present. When you first step into this world, you think it's a numbers game. Charts, ratios, entries, exits. But as time goes on, you realize it's something far deeper. Trading is a mirror. It reflects exactly who you are with brutal honesty. Your impatience, your greed, your ego, the market will expose it all. Every blown account, every missed opportunity, every emotional breakdown was never a punishment. It was feedback. The market was teaching me lessons that no book could. There's a quote I keep on my desk. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your discipline. That truth changed how I approached everything. Discipline isn't sexy, it's not exciting, but it's the foundation of everything sustainable in this game. And yet, discipline alone isn't enough. You need clarity. Clarity of who you are as a trader, what your edge is, and what game you're playing. For years, I was playing the wrong game. I tried to trade like institutions while having the capital of a retail trader. I was competing against algorithms instead of leveraging my human advantage, patience, intuition, adaptability. It wasn't until I stopped trying to beat the market that I started aligning with it. That's when I discovered what real trading freedom felt like. Not from making a lot of money, but from no longer being emotionally enslaved by the market's every tick. You see, There are two kinds of traders: those who trade to prove something, and those who trade to learn something. The first group burns out fast. The second evolves. Once you shift from proving to learning, the game changes. A loss becomes a lesson. A win becomes validation. You stop fearing volatility and start respecting it. I used to think success was when I could call myself a profitable trader. Now I know success is when I can go through a losing streak without losing my peace of mind. Because the goal isn't to win every trade, it's to stay in the game long enough for the probabilities to work in your favor. And beyond all the strategies, beyond all the risk management rules, lies the most important principle of all. Master yourself, master the markets. When you become emotionally neutral, when you detach your worth from your wins, when you stop chasing the next signal and start understanding your own behavior, that's when you truly start trading. Most retail traders never get there, not because they lack knowledge, but because they never turn the mirror inward. They keep searching for external edges, while the real edge is internal. I've seen traders with the same strategy produce opposite results, one thriving, one failing. The difference wasn't the system, it was the mindset. Trading doesn't reward the smartest or the fastest. It rewards the most self-aware. So if there's one lesson I want every retail trader to take away from my story, it's this: stop fighting the market, start mastering yourself. Because once you do, you realize the market was never your enemy. It was your greatest teacher.
If you've made it this far, maybe you've seen a part of yourself somewhere in my story. The ambition, the losses, the late nights staring at the screen wondering, why does it always happen to me? I know that feeling because I've lived it. And if there's one thing I wish someone had told me earlier, it's this: you're not broken. You're just early. Every trader you admire, every so-called pro who seems untouchable, they've all walked through the same fire. The difference is they didn't quit when it got hard. They used the pain as fuel. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. You see, trading isn't about chasing wins. It's about chasing understanding. Once you realize that, everything slows down. The noise fades. You stop trying to catch every move and start waiting for the ones that matter. And ironically, that's when success finally comes, when you stop needing it so desperately. When I finally started treating trading like a craft instead of a casino, everything changed. I stopped seeing it as a way to make money and started seeing it as a way to build mastery. It's the same principle that great athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs live by. Don't aim to be the best. Aim to be the last one still standing. Because this game, this brutal, beautiful game, rewards endurance more than brilliance. So if you're watching this and you're on the edge of giving up, maybe your account's bleeding, maybe your confidence is shot, I want you to remember something. Every losing streak has an end. Every drawdown hides a turning point. Every failure carries a seed of wisdom if you're willing to learn from it. I'm not here to sell you a strategy. I'm not here to promise you a shortcut. I'm here to tell you that you can make it, but only if you start taking yourself seriously as a trader. Not by chasing the next indicator or signal, but by mastering the only variable that truly matters: you. So here's what I want you to do after this video. Go back to your charts, not to trade, but to observe. Watch how the market moves. Notice where your emotions spike. Ask yourself why. Start journaling your thoughts, not your trades. You'll be amazed how fast your awareness grows once you stop reacting and start reflecting. And if this message resonates with you, if you're ready to trade smarter, not harder, then I invite you to stay with me on this journey. Because Staro Markets isn't just a channel, it's a mindset, a movement, a community for traders who are done chasing and ready to master themselves. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell,
Not because it helps the algorithm, but because it's your small act of commitment to your own growth. This is where retail traders stop losing like amateurs and start thinking like professionals. And remember, at the end of the day, this isn't just about trading. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle uncertainty, who can stay calm in chaos, who can adapt, survive, and thrive. That's what real mastery looks like. Master yourself, master the markets.
When I look back now, after 15 years in this game, I realize something simple but profound. Trading never really gets easier. You just get wiser. The markets still test me. There are still bad days, still losing trades, still moments when uncertainty hits hard. But the difference now is I no longer fight it. I flow with it. You see, the goal isn't to eliminate fear. It's to build the discipline that allows you to act despite fear. The market doesn't reward bravery. It rewards balance. I used to think success in trading meant beating others, being smarter, faster, sharper. But the truth? It's never been a competition against anyone else. It's a quiet war within yourself, between patience and ego, clarity and chaos, mastery and emotion. And once you win that war, the rest follows naturally. Somewhere along the journey, I stopped chasing profits and started chasing peace. Because when your mind is calm, your trades follow. When you respect risk, the market starts respecting you. If you take one thing away from this story, let it be this. Trading isn't about becoming rich. It's about becoming ready. Ready to adapt when things change. Ready to stay humble when you win. Ready to stay disciplined when you lose. That's how retail traders stop being victims of volatility and start becoming students of the game. And if this message reached you, if you felt that spark of recognition somewhere deep inside, then I want you to remember, you're already on your way. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to keep showing up. Because one day, when you least expect it, everything will click. The market will slow down. The noise will fade. And you'll realize you're no longer guessing. You're reading. You're seeing. You're trading. That's the day you'll stop being just another retail trader, and you'll start becoming a professional. So stay patient, stay humble, and above all, stay in the game. Because in trading, survival is victory. This is Starro Markets Trading, and your journey to mastery has just begun.